You asked, and today I'm going to tell you all about the renovation projects that I've done around the world. Because I think almost anywhere in the world, renovation can be frustrating, people can run late. I'm going to share with you my experiences so that you know what it's like. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson, the author of this book and the founder of Nomad Capitalist, where we help 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs and investors legally go where you're treated best. You can learn more at nomadcapitalist.com. And today I want to talk about all the renovation projects that I've done around the world over the years. I've been involved in helping people with a number of renovation projects and connecting them with contractors that I've worked with. We're not going to talk so much about that, but we are going to talk about my personal renovation projects. And my wife mentioned to me a while back, she said, we haven't been together that long. And they say, you're supposed to get into a relationship, you're supposed to wait a while, and then you go out and maybe you buy a house that requires some work. And she says, if you can survive, if your marriage can survive one renovation, then they say you'll make it forever. And we have been through numerous renovation projects at one time. It seems like they never seem to end. And the reason is, as I've been telling you, what I'm trying to do is basically build out a network of places in countries that are more free, countries that have lower taxes, countries where I just like to spend some time to create the ultimate nomad capitalist lifestyle where I can go between homes, greatly minimize time in hotels and vacation rentals, which we feel increasingly uncomfortable in. There's just a different feeling being in your own home. Basically, I'm trying to create a network of places where I can go and feel comfortable. And so as a prudent financial investor, I like to go out and find good deals. I don't like to overpay for things. And so if you're from the United States, and I've gone through real estate in the United States just for fun every once in a while, it seems like if you go to a lot of these real estate websites, everything's brand new, everything's done up, everything looks beautiful. It's harder in Western countries to find something that's just in dreadful shape. Whereas if you go to a lot of the more emerging countries, yes, you can save a lot of money. Housing is much cheaper. You can afford to live in the city center or the best neighborhood or whatever you want to do. But you will a lot of times, especially if you want to get a good deal, you want to buy something that needs some work. And so what I've done is I've taken that to the extreme. And I've said, give me the ugliest, nastiest thing that you can find in the best location with the best view potentially. Because why do I want to pay for something that someone decorated badly 3 years ago, just to rip that out? It seems like a waste of materials, certainly a waste of money. Give me the worst thing I can possibly find. Now, that makes sense in that you can totally customize your home and you don't feel badly doing it. I've had properties where I've been ripping out stuff that was probably around when Brezhnev was in charge. It also works from a financial point of view because, again, you're just paying for properties that maybe people aren't as interested in. Now, again, people are going to be somewhat interested in these properties because unlike in a Western country, you just don't have as much good quality inventory. Now, the good news is if you renovate something beautifully, good location, good view, what have you, you're going to be able to command top dollar for that. And in some of the countries that we talk about, I've seen examples of, the rich Russian guy who just comes in and says, name your price. And I haven't seen that myself personally because I'm not really in the business of selling, properties at this point. But if you can do that, if you can put, a beautiful property together with great design, with Western design, you can be very unique in the market, but you have to go through the work of designing it. And so right now I'm sitting in an apartment that I purchased in Belgrade, Serbia. And what you don't see is that there's a few parts of the apartment that still aren't done. They've got some exposed walls, they're finishing the kitchen. Here's the deal. About 6 months ago, I found a crew. I talked to 2 different crews, and I said, hey, I want to renovate a place. One crew was a bit expensive, and it wasn't the expense. It was that they weren't delivering the value. I wasn't sure exactly what I was getting. They're just like, here's the price, and it'll be spectacular. I'm like, how will it be spectacular? We don't know. So I went with the other crew, and basically said, all right, here's what I want to do. Now, I had them work with our property maestro in Montenegro, Anka, who knows my taste, knows what I like, and together they did a beautiful job putting together a plan where I really wasn't involved that much. That is one thing you have to be aware of when you're renovating properties around the world, is I've seen situations like right now in Malaysia, where, hired a company where they want to do the proper 3D design and map everything out, and before I left Malaysia last year, met up and said, yes, I like that. Okay, out of these 3 showers, that's the look, do everything. And then they put together the 3D design, you approve it, you pay them for that, and then later it's like, oh, actually they don't have any of those showers here, so can we send you more pictures of showers? And it's like, well, we seem like we're wasting our time. This is where the idea of if you can survive, 3 renovations at once or 4, whatever it is, now you'll really be together forever, because it's been a little frustrating as my wife and I kind of split up, some of the projects. What the people just kind of keep going back to you. So the beautiful thing here was I had someone in the country next door who could come in and say, here's what he wants, and she's always nailed it before, and I've had her even buy stuff from me sight unseen in the past because I trust her judgment. So the two of them got together, they did a great job. Here was the missing piece. In any renovation, you've got multiple people involved, right? At Nomad Capitalist, I say that we are the general contractor. When you want to go overseas, you might have 10 different lawyers and accountants you need, and we know how to manage them all so they all work together so that the plumber and the roofer aren't screwing each other up. The same thing happens, of course, in a renovation. That's where the example comes from. And the issue here was the people manufacturing some of the custom furniture, the stuff that, the new double doors and some of the stuff, decided to be late. And when Anka's like, well, why are you late? And for 6 months, I basically had this deadline where I said, here's when I'm coming. This is the exact deadline. It's very hard for me, by the way, in my background, to do this thing where it's like, tell them May 1st, but it's June 1st. I just say what it is. And, if people want to work with me, they should know that I say what I mean. So June 1st has been for 6 months. And basically they're like, everyone else did a great job. They get it. They respect it. This one company is like, oh, we just thought that was kind of a joke. And so I'm sitting in kind of half finished, which, by the way, still feels better. Anka's like, do you want to go to a hotel? Do you want to go and stay? I can find you an apartment to rent. I said, no, because the soul of what we've created, some of the decor, just the feeling, the view, everything is like, this is what it's going to be. This is where I want to be. I don't want to go. There's a hotel here in town. I've stayed at many times, and it's fine. But when I left the last time, I said, this is it. I'm done. Next chapter ahead. And so I think that there's a lot of kind of emotional energy you've got to consider when you're doing projects like this overseas. But still, very comfortable to stay in a place that is yours. And you can start setting things up. You can start hanging the clothes in the closet. But I am waiting for a few other things to come in. And so I think that what I would expect is no matter where you are in the world, I saw this, my parents build homes in the United States. They're always late. I mean, just expect that in this business, things are going to be late. Is it worse than the U.S.? I don't think so. It's probably even better than some of what I saw my parents go through. But you are going to have people be late because nobody quite gets it. And even the guy who does the furniture manufacturing said to us, like, nobody's really responsible or on time anymore. I mean, that's one of the things that you learn, I think, as you go through life, through business, through renovations. The experience in Malaysia, I originally had a bachelor pad, which is still there to be sold, that I pretty much did everything myself. That was a totally different experience, where it was the rare time when I got a property on the secondary market that had been bought from a developer. And one thing you'll find in Asia is you'll have a lot of people who buy properties basically as a bank account. And so, I've seen properties. I lived in a building many years ago, and I've occasionally gone to look for people or gone with people to look at, when they move to Malaysia, they want something to rent. And I've suggested that as a building that is a nice building. And you'll go there and you'll see properties that people are trying to rent or trying to sell. They've never even been used for years, because if they don't get their price, they just want to look at it as money in the bank. And so you can have, as much as I don't like to buy properties from developers, I think they're often overpriced, they're overmarketed. I did buy a property on the secondary market where I think the person needed some liquidity, and I was able to get it for less than what they paid for it. And so I got the bachelor pad and did it all myself, because there wasn't anything to be knocked down or anything. I was able to basically bring in a crew on my own just to say, hey, cut that wall, cut that drywall out and, repaint and all that. What I did with the bachelor pad in Malaysia a couple of years ago was basically a 1-week turnaround, where I like speed. I like just going quickly. And in the same way that I remember about 10 years ago, I bought a house in the U.S. and I told my family, I said, I'm hosting Christmas. I'm moving in December 1st. I'm hosting Christmas. They said, you can't do that. You don't have any friends. I said, I'll make it happen. And I did. I moved into the place in Malaysia, and I gave myself a 1-week goal. Some of the stuff was imperfect at first. Some of the things, it's like, all right, just, get the nice IKEA couch or, whatever, and we'll improve it later. But it took about a week because, I moved into a place that already had most of the basics, and I was able to have people do, basic work. When you're in Europe, when you're in Latin America, when you're in a lot of places where you're not buying brand new, Asia, you can certainly, there's more brand new inventory, or even in Malaysia, the new place is like an 11-year-old condo, which is like old. It's considered old. And so even there, I mean, how much has gone wrong in 11 years versus you're buying in Europe, could be 100 years old. So that was the experience. Now, fast forward to the new experience in Malaysia, which is, much bigger space, wanted to hire professionals, don't have the time to handle it, don't want to just run down to IKEA, want to do it very nicely. And the experience was, okay, we're going to do things very professionally. But the challenge sometimes is, again, people come back to you and constantly ask questions. So that's something to be concerned about. One of the challenges that you'll have, not so much in Malaysia, but in some countries, is a lack of inventory, where they'll say, we can't get that bathtub. A lot of times they'll import it for you, but there's a lot of checking in. So you want to set boundaries with people when you're doing that. One of the places that we also did a renovation project a couple times, but different years, was in Tbilisi, Georgia. Tbilisi is a market where they don't have as much available. And my experience there, I have a great friend who is more of an engineering renovation guy, more of a builder, and not so much a designer. And so one thing I found was, it's nice to have someone such as here in Belgrade and such as in Montenegro, where they have the design and the architectural and the engineering chops all in one. The challenge in Tbilisi was constantly providing feedback on design. And that can be an issue where, if you're not as focused. I enjoy the design process. I enjoy, perhaps my one hobby is looking at design, looking at interior design. If you don't want to do that, and you're finding a renovation, person, make sure they don't just do renovations. And in some of these countries, you're not going to have as many design people. You kind of, in a place like Tbilisi, you have to put together like a cartel or a round table, I suppose, of people where I remember there were, it's like even the curtains, like, oh, I only do curtains, don't bother me for anything else. And so that was an issue there. So these are some of the issues that people have asked, how do you handle all these renovations around the world? We've done it, and now looking at Istanbul and looking at other places. I think that you have to keep in mind a couple of things. Number one, what is your design taste? I think a lot of us have a very Western design taste, and so I was glad that when I had Anka come to this property, originally the whole living room, which has these beautiful windows open up on a beautiful view, the room is cut in two. And she said, listen, open it up, knock the wall down, we can do that, make it a big open floor plan. That's not as common in many countries. It's a very Western thing, and it's becoming more common in other countries. But even in places like Dubai, which of course is very international, it's just not as open. And so if you want open, certainly look at that going in. Can I make this floor plan open? But just what is my design in general, and can I accomplish that? And can I find people to help me do that? And how am I going to do that? I think the other issue is, how much time do you want to devote to a renovation? How involved you're going to be? Finding someone hopefully who can get your vision. I think one of the great things about me building a network over the years is that now I can say, all right, I know people who I trust, who kind of understand how I operate, who understand what I'm looking for, who have some idea about taste, and they can be easily delegated to. But that takes some time to build. And so you can either plug into someone else's network and kind of fast forward from there, or you're going to have to build your own network and get to know people in these different places who understand you. So those are all things that are important. Again, making sure when you go in, what kind of stuff is available. When I think of a property, what I always think of is, what is the vibe of this city? What am I trying to accomplish? And I almost like to have in some places a little bit of kitsch, where you kind of acknowledge, oh, this is the place in Asia. The famous red Buddha that we had. I mean, that's kind of a kitschy, a wink of the eye to the fact that, someone who lives around the world might want to have different property, who has different properties, might want to have kind of examples of like, oh, that's what makes this Asia, and it's kind of ironic in a sense. And so I think understanding what you want going in and saying, how am I going to create that? Is it available? What kind of look do I want? If I'm looking for marble, what kind of marbles do they have? If I'm looking for, granite countertops, what kind of granites do they have? What's the color scheme I'm thinking of for this property? So, I think that my experiences renovating properties have been overall pretty good. Nobody's ever going to be on time, almost ever. You shouldn't expect that. I think what you probably should expect is to go to your property. Earlier this year, I went to Bogota. That was actually a great renovation. Had a great guy who's super, measuring every millimeter, did a great job. Wish the Wish would have had a bit thicker windows, but the guy did an incredible job. Super nice guy, and he's a guy who's just very detail oriented, and he really wants to help you out. But when we got there, it was like, okay, you're going to be committed to spending some time, finishing things up. Unless you want someone else picking at every chair for you. Obviously, if you're moving around, you're not going to be living down the street, renovating your new house, and just moving your new furniture down. You're starting from scratch. And so there's a certain period in my experience where you just move in and you're kind of figuring things out. You're doing either the 7-day mad dash and getting the best thing possible and then upgrading, as you have the time to find better stuff. Or, you're committing to, as I spent this year in Bogota, about 3 months. Literally, the day I left, the guy, there's a great printer, he works with all the photographers, he printed out some stuff to hang on the walls. He brought it literally the day I was flying out. And I put it down and I asked the renovation guy, okay, go hang it up, where it's sitting. And so you've got to go through that process where maybe you're going to spend 2 or 3 months in a place just to get everything perfect. Everything's going to be where you want it. And in those 2 or 3 months, it's not going to be perfect. You're going to feel like you're at home. You're going to enjoy being at home versus being in a hotel. But it's going to almost be a joke potentially, depending on how if you're running my trifecta method, you're going to spend 1 year's trifecta in that place, and then the day you leave, it's going to come and be finished, because you're not going to exactly know where to go and buy artwork. I had to talk to my tailor, who had to talk to one of his clients, who had to call a friend. Where's the best place to print out great quality photos and canvases? Because I don't know where to go. You probably know where to go in your city, but you don't know where to go in this new city. So, the network's important. Being patient's important. It's the same everywhere, but there's a difference in how it works. And so I continue to think that having a network of places that you can call home around the world is great for financial freedom, personal safety. In the likes of right now with the pandemic, I think, getting on this and getting a few places ready to go that you can call home, that you can get to if you have to, that you can spend time in, I think is important. Understanding that renovation process hopefully is a way to make it a little bit easier. So people ask, Andrew, how do I get the most out of Nomad Capitalist? How do I begin my Nomad Capitalist journey? The first thing people do is they start right where you're at. They watch YouTube, they listen to podcasts, they read articles at nomadcapitalist.com. We've spent years creating thousands of pieces of free content so that you can get the vibe from someone who's actually done this, from someone who's actually been in your shoes. What they'll do next, they'll get a copy of the book. You can find it on Amazon. It costs a few bucks, and while it's not going to give you all the secrets, it's going to, again, give you more of the vibe. You're going to learn a lot of the things that I've learned. You're going to learn some strategies you can employ, and you're going to get a lot further in your journey. From there, if you are the 7 or 8 figure entrepreneur investor, you can go to nomadcapitalist.com. You can click Become a Client. We're pretty busy these days, but we have availability to help a limited number of people who want to create a holistic plan, something that I think is so important. So if you want to do that, go to nomadcapitalist.com, click Become a Client, learn more about how it works and how we can help you.